When a woman walks away, your first instinct is to pull her back, to explain, to justify, to prove your worth. But what you don't realize is that every time you chase, you reinforce her decision to leave. You're confirming what she subconsciously suspected all along, that your sense of worth depends on her validation. Detachment is not about ignoring her, it's about reclaiming yourself. It's the psychological shift from "I need her to feel complete" to "I choose myself to become whole." When you detach, you stop pouring energy into convincing someone to see your value and start embodying it instead. It's a subtle yet powerful transformation. Because women are not drawn to desperation, they're drawn to grounded energy, men who are calm in chaos, steady in uncertainty, centered in self-respect. Detachment communicates emotional independence, and emotional independence is deeply attractive. It's not about ego, it's about balance. You no longer operate from a place of fear or loss, but from self, trust and quiet strength. And here's the truth: when you stop chasing, you give her space to feel your absence. You stop feeding her the attention that once validated her. In that silence, she begins to question herself. She wonders what changed, what shifted, why the man who once overgave suddenly became unbothered. That mystery unsettles her because it flips the dynamic suddenly. She's the one seeking emotional reassurance. Detachment isn't withdrawal, it's alignment. It's choosing to protect your peace rather than prove your point. It's the moment you stop chasing love and start becoming it. Because once you master detachment, you don't just get her attention, you get your power back. And once a man reclaims his power, everything else starts coming back naturally, including her. The more you chase, the further she runs. It's not because she doesn't care, it's because human psychology is wired to deval you what feels too available. The law of reverse attraction works quietly but powerfully. When you pull back, when you stop trying to convince her of your worth, something unexpected happens. She starts to feel the emotional gap. The same space she thought she wanted suddenly feels uncomfortable. What once felt like freedom begins to feel like loss. Attraction thrives on polarity. When you become the pursuer, you collapse that polarity, you remove the mystery. But when you step back, when you reclaim your center, you reintroduce uncertainty. And uncertainty is what triggers emotional engagement. It makes her question, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he fighting for me? That curiosity is the seed of attraction being replanted. There's also something deeper at play here: respect. A woman can only be drawn to a man she respects, and respect is never built through pleading or pursuit. It's built through composure. When you stop reacting to her distance with desperation and start responding with detachment, you're showing her that your emotions aren't dependent on her actions. That's strength. That's masculine polarity. Reverse attraction isn't manipulation, it's alignment with reality. You're not playing games, you're simply refusing to engage in one. You're letting natural energy dynamics restore balance. Because when you stop chasing what's running, it eventually slows down, turns around, and wonders why you're no longer behind it. Remember, the moment you stop trying to pull her back into your life, you create the space for her to find her own way back. Real attraction doesn't grow in pursuit, it grows in peace, and when peace becomes your energy, it becomes her reason to return. When she leaves, the worst thing you can do is wait. Waiting keeps you trapped in emotional paralysis, constantly checking her stories, analyzing her silence, wondering when she'll return. But here's the truth: she doesn't come back to the man she left. She comes back to the man who evolved after she left. The moment you shift your focus from her absence to your advancement, everything begins to change. Transformation is the most magnetic energy a person can emit. When you start improving, not to get her back, but to get yourself back, you become unpredictable again. You disrupt the version of you she thought she knew. Maybe she left a man who was emotionally dependent, unmotivated, or too focused on her. But when she sees that you've redirected that energy toward your purpose, your goals, your physical and emotional growth, she's forced to confront a new reality. She underestimated you. A powerful glow-up isn't about revenge, it's about realignment. It's showing life that you're not defined by who walked away, but by how you rose after they did. You start dressing better, speaking with more clarity, setting boundaries you once avoided. You build momentum. You shift from being reactive to being intentional, and that shift doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. What women sense, more than words or gestures, is energy, and growth carries an unmistakable energy. It's calm, confident, and quietly commanding. When you elevate yourself, you stop chasing external validation because your own reflection becomes proof of your worth. So stop asking, when will she come back? And start asking, how far can I go without her? Because once you rise into your full potential, she won't just notice your transformation, she'll feel it, and that feeling will pull her back stronger than any words ever could. Emotional indifference is often misunderstood. People think it means being cold, detached, or uncaring. But it's not about shutting down your emotions, it's about mastering them. It's the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. When you reach that state, you become untouchable, not because you don't care, but because you no longer allow your emotions to dictate your worth or your actions. That's power in its purest form. When she realizes that her words no longer shake you, that your mood doesn't fluctuate with her attention, she begins to feel something unfamiliar respect. Respect is the foundation of renewed attraction. When you were overly emotional, reactive, or desperate for validation, you gave her control over your peace. But when you respond with calm detachment, you communicate emotional maturity, and that's something few people ever master. Indifference radiates stability. It tells her, I've learned to be okay even without you. That doesn't just intrigue her, it disarms her, because most people expect a reaction. They expect emotional dependency. But when you remain centered, it changes the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she's not the emotional authority anymore, you are, and that quiet strength becomes magnetic. Philosophically speaking, indifference is freedom. It's not rebellion against emotion, it's transcendence above it. You still care, but you choose to prioritize peace over attachment. You become the observer of your emotions, not their prisoner. The moment your happiness no longer depends on her response, you've already won. Because that's when she feels your energy shift. That's when she begins to chase the calm she once took for granted. Remember this, the most attractive energy in the world isn't desire, it's emotional control. And the one who controls his emotions controls the connection. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of communication. In a world addicted to instant replies and constant reassurance, silence feels uncomfortable, almost confrontational. But that discomfort is exactly what makes it powerful. When you stop explaining, defending, or seeking closure, you force the other person to sit with their own thoughts. Silence becomes the mirror they can't escape from. And in that quiet space, she begins to hear what your words could never say. When you go silent, you withdraw the emotional supply that once fed her certainty. She no longer knows what you're thinking, how you're feeling, or whether you've moved on. That uncertainty ignites curiosity, and curiosity, in human psychology, is one of the strongest emotional pulls. She starts revisiting conversations, replaying moments, and analyzing your behavior, all because your silence created a void her mind feels compelled to fill. But this isn't about manipulation, it's about energy. Silence reclaims your focus. It redirects your attention from reaction to reflection. It teaches you restraint, an art most people never master. You're no longer trying to be understood, you're simply at peace with being silent. And that energy speaks volumes. It tells her, I'm not angry, I'm not waiting. I've simply moved inward. Philosophically, silence is alignment with strength. It's the absence of noise, but the presence of control. You stop fighting for closure and start embodying it. And when she realizes she no longer has access to your emotions, she'll feel your absence louder than any words you could have spoken. Always remember, words may reach her ears, but silence reaches her soul. And when you master silence, you don't just make her miss you, you make her remember what peace used to feel like when she was around you. The final shift happens when you start living as if she no longer exists. Not out of anger, not to prove a point, but because your life has outgrown the space she once occupied. This is where true transformation begins, when your world stops revolving around her and starts revolving around purpose. You wake up with goals, not grief. You move with direction, not desperation, and that shift in focus changes everything. Energy is magnetic. When you're still emotionally tied to her, she feels it, even in silence. But when you release that attachment and channel it into your growth, something profound happens. Your energy becomes lighter, freer, and far more attractive. You stop radiating need and start radiating peace. And ironically, that's when she begins to feel your presence everywhere, because the version of you that once depended on her has evolved into someone she can no longer ignore. Living like she no longer exists doesn't mean suppressing emotion, it means mastering it. It's the quiet confidence of someone who's accepted what happened, learned from it, and moved forward without resentment. You stop waiting for her to come back and start walking toward a life that doesn't need her return to feel complete. That's the point where you become magnetic, not through effort, but through evolution. And here's the truth, she will come back not because you tried to make her, but because you became the version of yourself she never believed you could be. You stopped chasing, stopped proving, stopped needing. And in that silence you became unforgettable. So live, grow, rise, and let her feel your energy not through your presence, but through the peace you now embody. Because when you finally stop waiting for her, that's when she truly starts to return.